Planning and Zoning meeting here today on January 23rd. Is it 23rd?
Yep.
It is. 2024. Brandon is online with us here. He's on the phone, so he'll be joining us if he has any questions. And Sherry just pointed out that this is not on.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yes. Amy's one more, thank you.
Part of my job. You know, the equipment's run.
Yeah.
I knew there was a reason I put you up here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and call to order. It's just a shade past 6:02 on this January 23rd, 2024 regular scheduled planning and zoning meeting. This evening, first on your minutes that's in front of you is to approve the planning and zoning minutes of the meeting held on October 16th, 2023 as presented or with corrections, and I entertain to waive the reading.
We have to wait for reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion, Sherry, and Tim is a second.
Tim or Jim, either one.
Okay, all right. All right, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Next on the agenda is discussion of an ordinance allowing the code official to administer citations or fines. This is something, just so that you all know, is something that is a must with the home rule. We're supposed to have that in our ordinances, especially if you are going to have citations of any kind written by your code official. I have in front of you a little reading material. I'll go ahead and read this to you. It says on-site citations. I'm not going to read all of these, but I did find this interesting as we talk about citations and the importance of citations. We're not in the business to try to make money on citations. I can tell you that right now. Citations is it's, you know, you might as well say it's sometimes needed to get certain things done. You know, we like to think that most individuals will obey by or go by the ordinances and things like that. But at times we have folks that just maybe not want to mow their lawn or do certain things against ordinances that can create an issue for us. So this is why we're doing citations. And I think some of this information right here is pretty good. When a local government utilizes on-site citations, city officials may issue citations to a property owner on the spot for external sanitation and nuisance violations without the need to go to court. Functioning similar to a traffic ticket, on-site citations are only issued for external property violations such as accumulation of garbage, high weeds or grass, open storage, graffiti, drainage issues, and etc. Local officials have cited compliance rather than punishment or revenue as the primary goal of on-site citation programs. For this reason, many communities give verbal or written warnings before issuing a citation. Certainly, I want everybody to know that I work closely to our code official, and he certainly is not going to be out there just to write citations. A citation will be written when things just are not going well, you know, where you're continually going out and seeing the same person over and over again. I know that our code official will be out there issuing citations only when needed. Approved home rule status. Currently, an on-site citation program is only available to communities who have requested the authority through a home rule program. For a list of communities, there is an Appendix G that you can look at. Ordinance, the community must have ordinances related to exterior sanitation and nuisance violations. The City of Charleston ordinance is attached in this, and I wanted to give this to you. Advantages, basically improves the rates of compliance. It does, it improves the compliance. I did speak with some folks at the down at the municipality league, and people are getting a lot of great results from just issuing these fines. Faster compliance, fair when proper notice is provided. It's very fair. Like I said, you're going to let them have plenty of notice. They're going to get things written to them that, hey, you need to do this in a certain amount of time. And it's a very fair program. Reduced costs for the community, primarily due to reduced time in court for public employees. Don't have to attend court, and that's good. There is a disadvantage, must have an approved home rule program. Concerns about abuse or discretion by without the right to trial first. But overall, it seems to be very positive. There's some more information there. I won't go through it all, but it's a community highlight of the city of Charleston. They're doing a lot of that too. It seems to be working. I probably looked at 8 or 10 other like cities in the state that have already done this, and it's working very well. So no issues there. I have spoken to our code official, and it is really he that has approached me to please. It helps to have something like that. He doesn't necessarily want to use it, but it does help to have it. It gives him a little bit more bite, if you will, out there when he has some of those folks. I can tell you there's not a lot of those. We do not have a lot of those, but you do have your repeat offenders that it seems like every month you're chasing down and you're trying to get them to clean their yards up or mow their lawns or, get rid of trash and things of that nature. So, again, we talk about this all the time, but we try to protect, all the citizens and, especially property values. And it really hurts when you have, and there's a couple of those out there right now that I know Joey is working with, and it is an eyesore, and it does devalue other properties. So we want to make sure that everybody's being consistent on our ordinances and making sure they're keeping their properties up nice. So that is some of the reasons why we're doing it. Finding those ordinances are very easy. You can look through the state of West Virginia and find them all over the place. And I have put a few in front of you. I think maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe a couple there. Like cities, I looked at some like cities. City of Hinton does a nice job with theirs. I think I gave you one from the city of Vienna, which is actually my hometown where I'm from. And it's a very like city in numbers and population. And they've been doing really, really well. So if you look, most of these do have some of those fines attached and some of those dollar amounts. I think at the end of the day, this body here can probably recommend where they would like to be in those things, but certainly we would take those, any type of dollar amounts and that kind of thing would go through the council, and city council would approve those. So we would certainly could recommend to them. If you look that first one there, City of Vienna, if you skip over to page 5, and Ray, I have an extra pack right there if you need any of that. If you want to look at that, feel free to look at that. That's fine. But it does say in Article 126 on this particular item, Building and Zoning Administration Enforcement of External Sanitation and Common Nuisance Violations, Citations and Enforcement. And there's so many things that you can enforce. If you go down to the article where it says C, sanitation, drainage, sidewalks in disrepair, high weeds, grass, exterior garbage accumulation, graffiti, those type of things are things that we probably should consider. I think Joey, the biggest things that he sees is, sometimes it's disrepair, things needing repaired, whether it be storage buildings and things of that nature. The high weeds and grass is always a big item in town. He has to deal with that an awful lot. And graffiti, not so much. But a lot of it's starting to happen a little bit more. You're starting to see vehicles that are not licensed and hanging around on properties. It's not unusual. The other day I went and looked at two two residents that had 2+ vehicles that were not registered and not licensed at that time. You know, so those things can add up, and we just need to continue to try to protect those. These are great examples, and I thought I could come tonight and get an ordinance passed, but there's so much reading here. It's to be only fair to you. I think I would like you to go home, look at this. It's a great start. You can, you know, come back. I'd like to come back to the next meeting with recommendations as to what you would like to see done. I think maybe at the next meeting I would also like to have Joey here and let Joey talk to some of the issues that he might be dealing with the most, and let him, you know, talk to you about those too. So it is something that we have to do. Hinton, if you go to page 7 and 8, you'll see, and I gave you a whole book on them. The reason I did, when I read through their stuff, they're so similar to us, and I would like you to keep this book or their ordinance book here. It also has their home rule application in it, which is really good. But when we talk about things, I think this is a great place. I know the mayor there real well, and it's like they're doing some really good things too. So, you know, this would be a good one to just look back onto when we're talking about things. Look into Hinton's ordinances and things of that nature too, and you'll see. They've broken it down a little bit differently, and I like it. But certainly, once you read through it, you can decide which way you would like to break it down. So I think we just look at how we want to define it, how we want to break it down, get with Joey, see what he's having the most issues with. You can look, I believe Deanna had those fines in there. It was on page 8. If you look under penalties, any person issued a citation shall be punished by fines as follows. Their fines were within any 12-month period: $100 for the first citation, $200 for the second citation, $300 for the third citation, and $500 for the fourth citation. I can tell you these range when you start looking. This is pretty similar to what most of them are. Maybe just above, this might be just a shade above the median. Okay, so when I see $300 for the third or $200 for the second, that might be just a shade above the median. Most are in the $50 to $100 range early, then it will go to the $150, and then $250, somewhere in that ballpark. So this could be, you know, just a tad above the median, but certainly in line with probably where we will fall in regard to fines or citations. Any questions to any of this?
How far do you go before the city brings a lien?
Well, that's something that we can identify. Certainly, the lien is always good. You know, when we look at, you know, lien against properties as well. So you're talking, you know, we get into this more with fire fees, B&O taxes, and things like that. We do have kind of some limits where when it hits a limit, we're taking it to the magistrate and you know, acquiring a lien at that point. This is all brand new, so we can add to that. You know, you can actually put that as part of the fines or the citation amounts there. You can, you know, you can say once it gets to a certain point, you know, give them the opportunity to at least go get that lien against.
So there's not anything established?
Correct.
Okay.
Nothing established yet. And what we're trying to do here. It's a good question, though. Real good question. Lien, unfortunately, you know, we also have the opportunity. We do have a company that we deal with that sends people to collections. It's not really a great deal for the city. I'll tell you why. I like the lien the most because at least there's some protection there for the city. You know, you're going to be able to get something. The collection doesn't always work out. Plus, it's you get pennies on the dollar back from that because you're paying them to do the collection part of it. So, you know, I like the idea of what you're saying, Jimmy. Take it to magistrate, let them do the lien, then go from there. So, any other questions to any of that? Jim, you got any of that? Please look them up. I mean, almost, so many of the cities are now home rule, and they all have some sort of citation rule in their ordinance now. So it's something that we need to move forward on, in a real timely manner. But there's a lot of great information out there. All the cities are doing it now. Okay?
Is there any requirement in the Municipal Home Rule Act, any specifics as to what this thing should look like, the requirements in there?
That's a great question. I think there's some requirements in regard to kind of a guideline, but I don't think there's any, and the reason I say there's not any specific way is because when you look at all these, they're all different.
That's what caused me to ask the question.
Yeah, they're just like all across the board. And I think it's a lot of because cities have different needs all over the place. So, I mean, there's, so I'm not sure, but there's some guidelines, but I don't know of any specific, process that you're supposed to use.
I guess we probably ought to take a look at that before.
Yep, we can do that.
Yeah.
I have ran this by our city attorney, Greg Tucker. He's all for it. He certainly will help us with this and wrap it up for us once we know what we want exactly. He looked at several once I went to him too, and he called me back and said, yeah, they're all doing things differently. He says it's like you said, they're writing them different. Obviously, they're written by attorneys because when I read them, it's like, whoo. But what I want to do is make sure that we sometimes can get we can get to where we're being too difficult, and we need to be able. It needs to be clear and understand that people need to be able to read it and say, well, if I don't cut my grass, it's going to cost me $100, or it's going to cost me $200. So.
So home rule is statewide?
Yes, but it is only from the cities that have adopted it. Not all. We just recently did it.
I know, but it used to be they picked some of those and let them try it, like 4 or 5 cities, and then they would, the following year, they would adopt other ones.
Yes.
But now it's just.
No. They're doing it the same way. You have to go. Yeah, like when you apply for that.
To whom?
To Charleston, and then you go down there and you meet with them.
To the legislature.
Yes, and they have a committee or a commission that hears all those. So, I mean, like our mayor and myself went down and presented to them, and then they come back and let you know whether or not you're approved. So, it's still that same way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you still have to go down, and it's quite a process. That application process was difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite a process. Good questions. Anybody else? And you can see why there's no way I could come tonight and budge you toward an approval of an ordinance, right? But I think we can put one together. What I would like to do is come to you next time with my recommendation for one, and then you all can add and subtract. How's that sound? If there's anybody that would like to be a part of that, just give me a shout. Okay. Next on the agenda is further discussion of tiny homes. This has been amazing. It still, every day just amazes me how what seems to be so simple is so difficult. Wouldn't you say it, Jim?
Yeah.
So, with the help of our city attorney, he and I came up with some stuff, and these things that's in front of you are ideas that you can do, and they range from a lot of different directions. There's one in here I do want to point out. It says the Parkersburg News and Sentinel. The reason I printed that was simply because they just recently, the commission there approved a small home district. They're calling it a small home district. And it's only a particular area that they will allow those in. And that's the reason I brought that up is it is out there. I would tell you that, so we've discussed, there's some people that have been mentioning the possibility of something like that happening around the new sport complex and areas of that nature, and we've always said that we would certainly entertain that, even though we may not be for tiny homes. I would be open to an area or a small home district like they are doing. Sure. For a certain area, if it makes sense for the area, I think it would be fantastic. Because I can tell you, some of those tiny homes they're beautiful. I mean, they are. They look nice. I'm not talking about the ones that you go buy for your lawnmower. I'm talking the ones that are double deckers and they look pretty nice. So that is what that's there for. By no means did I want you to think that I'm trying to put in a small home district, because I'm not, but it's certainly out there. They are, when you dig into this, areas are doing this in a lot of different ways. But they are up against it like we are. Some are trying to prevent some of these little tiny sheds that pop up and become tiny homes. And they're doing it in a lot of different ways. They're handling it as accessory dwelling units, okay? And they are identifying, if you look, I have a sheet there that I put, and it says Jefferson County on the very top. Jefferson County is not for these units, but feel that they could be a secondary dwelling unit. It could be for, and they're beginning to define what they want to use these for. Some are being used for kind of like a mother-in-law suite and things of that nature, which is okay. They're identifying them as that. They're not wanting them built for Airbnbs and rentals and things like that, but they are allowing them. But they still have to meet a lot of things like your setbacks. They're starting to put minimum square footages on these things, and some things of that nature. They're also, as Nitro right here in front of you too, which Greg thinks would be the best. And I said, Greg, I don't know, Greg. And but he said, Gary, I think short term, it could be a decent route to go. So if you want to look at the Nitro one, and I just kind of circle it, what they are doing is taking these tiny home housing units and they're putting values on them. So if you read this, the value of any tiny home is defined, and they have sections and articles, but basically cited in an R, like a residential, R3, general residential, mobile home and mobile home park zones shall be equal to or greater than the average value of all existing homes located within 300 feet in each direction. So basically what they're saying is they're putting a value on it, and they're identifying it as it's got to be the average value of all existing homes located within 350 feet. 350 feet is a long way
Who
too.
determines that value?
But you would have to have, once it goes in.
Appraiser for the city?
Yeah, somebody appraising it, or, you would have your code officials out there who's approving permits and things of that nature. That would.
Would you accept a motion to have the district where that home is be represented and appraised by city councilman representing that ward? I'll withdraw that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much.
So moved. Okay. So what they're basically doing is preventing you from putting in something.
They're stopping it.
Yeah, they're stopping you. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're stopping you in a legal way. They're stopping you from doing it. So it says within 300 350 feet in each direction for tiny home sites, provided that the burden of establishing the value of existing homes located within the 350 feet of the tiny home site shall be upon the owner of the tiny home. A lot of these places are, basically also, like I said, they're allowing them for mother-in-laws and things like that, and there is some need for that. The thing that I like to point out is, as I look and I'm looking at other areas, I think there's some issues with some of that, because what happens when the mother-in-law passes? You have that living facility in the back. I mean, what are you going to do with that? And I see some long-term issues with that as I look at that. I know the temptation of when you have a place in the back to rent that would be very high. I mean, it would be extremely high. So, I hesitate from going that direction. But these are some of the creative ways that people are going about, or some of these municipalities are going about handling this. Now, one thing I can say is about this, I don't see how this would prohibit. Somebody had a large backyard, Jim, and we have a place like that in our town, where somebody took their large yard and they moved their in-laws in the backyard in a double wide, and they met the setbacks, they met everything there. I mean, that would not prohibit something like that. So it's not a complete dead ordinance. It would certainly, you could still do something. You just have to have the property to do it with. And as I see the areas that we have the most concern about, the areas that do not have the deed restrictions, there's not a ton of that property there to be able to pull all that off. But there's some areas, Jim, that you can do that with.
Oh, yeah.
So, we might prohibit, for the most part, a tiny home moving in. But the recommendation from our city attorney would be, certainly you want to put a minimum square footage on whatever you do too. He said, I would actually put a minimum square footage along with that value. So some of the things that's going on around the state, they're all dealing with the same issues. Some are okay with accepting tiny homes. As I look, there's some areas that are accepting tiny homes. There's more that are not than that are, but there's some that are still doing it. So it's a big responsibility for us. It's a big challenge for us, but we do need to pursue this and make this happen. Right now, we don't have anything to stop this. I mean, you could put a tiny home out back. I have a very difficult time stopping that right now. That's why this ordinance is really important. Any questions, comments?
I just noticed in this, they just mentioned R3 in here.
Yeah.
In theirs.
Yes.
We'd have to take a look at,
Yes.
we want to include the other.
We want to include all.
Yeah, I don't think we want to spell out one.
Yeah, R1, R2, R3. Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Absolutely.
Could you combine the two? Jefferson and Knight?
Yes, yes, you can get as creative as you want.
Because there's a lot of good restrictions in the Jefferson County one
Absolutely.
as to what you can and can't do
Yeah. I
if you
agree.
have one. Versus if this one is just, as long as it meets the value, you can do whatever you want to.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of a wide open area there.
It is. Absolutely.
So you're not aware of the legislature taking a look at any of this, or just leaving it to the cities?
And so far, they're still leaving it with the cities. The municipality league is not touching this yet.
They won't.
Yeah, they're giving me, the information you're seeing, that's the kind of information they'll give you. This is how some areas are handling things. But they don't have anything down there right now trying to change any of that. the biggest thing that I see that's challenging is with the home rule, under home rule, you have to allow Airbnb. You have to allow it.
Oh, you do?
Yes. Yes. We cannot stop Airbnb under home rule. It's written. It's in there. So,
Can you limit how many that you can have in the town?
no, not under home rule.
They don't have any guidelines for it though?
Not under home rule. It just says you have to allow Airbnb.
Or you can't impose any kind of ordinance or restrictions on Airbnbs that are not common to other structures, right?
Correct. Correct.
So you can't single them out and say, you know, manage them or regulate them separately.
Yeah, so we
Basically
can't.
what the ordinance says.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
There's some of the cities down south. Try to pivot it back, the towns have several thousand of them. Well, there's one place down south, Charles, South Carolina, it's limited to 800 in the town. They got so many, it's just there.
Well, case in point, you got just down the street at Fayetteville. You know, they have so many down there now. They're you know, they're locals that work there are having a tough time finding housing. So yeah, but no, that's why right now we can't keep Airbnbs out. But I want to, and I think if it's the wishes of this commission, prohibit some of these tiny homes that we're discussing becoming Airbnbs.
Sure.
So that's why it's kind of a, yeah, actually Ted, we were discussing that before we went home rule. You know, should we allow them, should we not allow them? They were already popping up, right, Jim? We were struggling with that. Should we just restrict how many? You know, maybe we were getting to the point where so many in per area or per residential area. We were bouncing all over the place with that, but once we went home rule, it just went all off. I just pushed it off the desk because we
Yeah, basically couldn't do anything about it.
couldn't stop it. Could not stop it. So, I mean, there are some things you can do. You know, you can limit parking and things of that nature. I mean, there's some things you can address, but you can't disallow it.
You can't single them out.
Can't single them out. It's dangerous, as I've been told. A couple times I've said things to Greg about what, you know, what we can do, what we do. He just looks and says, "Be careful. You know, be careful. Under home rules, you're really stuck." So
We all think that that should be changed, but
we do, and I mean, and maybe it will be one day. But right now, the municipality league is not on the floor trying to change it. So I think there are a lot of municipalities hoping they will, but so far they haven't taken that stance. And, the mayor and I will be back down there soon for another meeting, so I'll get a little more information at that time to see, try to poke at it a little bit.
see if there's anything cooking there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's still the wishes of this body that I think we're not for those tiny homes. We're talking about the tiny homes that look like lawnmower buildings and things like that, you know. But how we say it and put it in an ordinance is the most difficult thing. And these are some of the creative ways that they're handling it now. So, I don't know. I really like the nitro one. I do. I think it's something that you can work with. I also see where Sherry's coming from too, in Jefferson. I like that idea too. There's some good points in there that we can move into this one.
Did you look at their definition of a tiny home?
Yes.
What is,
Yeah.
the nitro, what did they say was a tiny home?
Yeah, I know. It's a good point.
I just, you know, to me, of course, I'm a simple guy, I just kinda hate to go down that road where you just have to make all kinds of choices and,
Yeah,
I mean, rather than just cover carte blanche. You know, applicable to all homes, not just, I mean, don't even go to a tiny home, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about it. So,
well, you're better if you don't mention the term,
yeah,
with reference to structures.
yeah, what does it mean?
No, that'd be right.
Yeah,
What does it mean?
That's the problem with, well, all over the state is nobody really can define tiny home.
Yeah, it's not been standardized, the definition.
And I'm trying to not use the word tiny home. I'm trying, but I can't. I just keep saying it. But I mean, and you can see where they're starting to call them different things now. Accessory dwelling, and they're trying to get away from the term. I mean, when I look at this, Parkersburg calls it small home district. You know, they're trying to get away from that tiny.
Jefferson had a really good definition of, I like the definition
Yeah,
of the
yeah. Read that definition.
It is defined as a secondary dwelling unit that has a separate kitchen, bathroom, and sleeping area, and may be attached to the principal dwelling unit or detached and situated on the same lot as the principal dwelling unit. So that at least gives you what it has to have, doesn't give you any limits as to, in that line, what the square feet would be, but it tells you it has to have a separate kitchen, bathroom, and sleeping area.
Yeah.
how is the Fayette, ordinance going on tiny homes?
How is it going?
Have they talked to them lately? When did they pass that, 6 months ago?
It's been a little while. I haven't spoke to him. Every once in a while I'll call down and talk to him, but I haven't talked to him for a while. So I'm not sure. Brandon, do you have any comments?
I have nothing right now.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to get maybe, gosh, help me, Amy. Am I allowed to get three? Two people with me?
Yes, you can,
Okay.
as long as it's just you and no more than 2 people.
I don't wanna go get sunshine laws. But I would like to get a couple of volunteers that we can work on something. And I would like to get something put together so that I can bring to you guys. And you can thumb it up, thumb it down, or suggest addition or subtraction. You know what I mean?
Let's start somewhere.
You got to. We've talked about it a lot. Now we gotta put it to action. We're gonna have to make some difficult decisions. And I encourage everybody to talk around. I mean, I talk to people in town. Every time I sit down at dinner with another couple, I always bring it up. What do you think? And they are absolutely not for it. They don't want that little place in the neighbor's yard. You know, they're just not for it. So, you know, it's certainly not just me not wanting this, and we have an obligation to really maintain property values and things of that nature. So we can't keep Airbnbs out, but you know, the type of Airbnb, I think we have some say to when it comes to when it comes to tiny homes, small homes, whatever. There I go again.
I really kind of, you know, in this nitro ordinance, you know, trying to establish in some ordinance around value,
Mhm.
whatever value it is. You know, in fact, I don't know in the realty business whether they have determined how to assess value of these things or not, or what, I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, is that?
It'll be hard. Well, I think Jim was talking about some of that kind of stuff, but yeah, who would determine what the
Yeah,
value is
yeah.
and things of that nature? But I can tell you, it would certainly, I think it would take out a small home. If you were putting it in an area where the homes were, say, $150,000, you know, whatever, but we do have some areas that are less. So you could certainly, a tiny home, you can probably quickly get 80 to 100,000
Oh, yeah. I
into a
think so.
tiny home quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, those average values, that's I think a little dangerous, but I don't know.
Just saying value in itself, I mean,
Yes,
There's a lot more work in that than just
Yeah,
absolutely,
square footage and
yeah, that's,
so forth.
it's a little more difficult.
absolutely, absolutely. Who's going to define those values?
Yeah.
You
You
determine
can
Jim, right?
tell the applicant that, we'll get back to you in 8 or 9 months after we do our evaluations, and it may change their mind about coming here.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But then again, do you want to run these people off? Do you want them coming here and having the opportunity to live with their family or whatever?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure, you're probably right. I mean, it's probably gonna be a mixture. You know, and this is just a couple. I mean, I'm telling you, you can have as many as you want. I mean, they're written in all different ways. I know Greg and I both, when we read this was a little different when you looked at the value and how they were doing it. There's some things I really like about it. The 350-foot rule, I like that. And then,
This one's good too, for a detached accessory dwelling unit must be located on a property of at least 2 acres.
there you go.
So, I mean, that's good too, that we're
Yes.
not,
Mhm.
Well, just with what they're saying there on footage, you're looking at a football field on each side of your property. So you're gonna have, that pretty well
Yes,
tells you you're gonna have 2 acres at least.
yes.
I mean, a football field on
You gotta do all 4
350 in every
directions.
direction.
Yeah, in every direction.
Yeah.
Four
Yeah, in
directions.
every
Yes.
direction.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So my goal this evening was to try to
Almost
spur
an acre.
Mhm.
It's almost
spur
an
some
acre.
thoughts and
210,
find a direction to go in,
Yeah, but you're 400 by 100.
sit down. Do I have anybody?
350 on every angle, any way around you, that'd be 350.
Yeah, 350 every direction.
Yeah.
It's easy to do with the GPS maps now. I mean,
Oh, I know, but it's still,
but that's a long way. 350 doesn't sound very far until you really look at it. It's a long way. It goes a long way.
may stop that mother-in-law idea because she may not want to walk all that far.
True.
Go ahead and with her family.
True. They'd have to have a golf cart or something like that.
but that's just existing homes within 300 feet for the value. It's not, they have to be 350 feet away,
Correct. It's just for the values.
just for the values.
Yeah.
So that's,
As written in that,
yeah,
yes.
it's written in this one.
Yes.
And this one has to be, one must be located, if it's detached, on a property of at least 2 acres.
True. But you can also take that and add,
Yeah, but you'd have to.
you could add it however you want to add it, how far away from the structure you want it to be, and I mean, there's a lot of options there.
Where's that one section we looked at last time for the 11, what was it, the 1105?
You didn't have to deal with this, did you, when you were in before? This is all new stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the only way it was.
I know, you did.
What was the last one said that was not permitted? Did anybody look at that? Did Greg look at that?
Which one?
Where was it in a minute?
Was that the mobile home ordinance, Sherry?
It might have been, it was 1105, was 1105 or was it?
How many can you put on
Sounds like
these
more.
cars? You know,
He looked at the mobile home ordinance,
how
didn't
many
he?
can you put on these cars? I might want to put, not 10 acres, but
Yeah,
30 of them on.
yeah, hurry up. Get all of them
Like
in
I
there
said,
now.
it could not be, we found it the last meeting, I forget what it was.
I'm sorry, I don't have my last meeting.
But then, he can't be 5'6".
Well, I saw
There's
it.
the C,
Put that
this
in.
is one, the C, that says the use of mobile homes, single section, manufactured homes for any purpose other than for residential use, is hereby expressly
Do
prohibited.
what?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We talked about that, you know, with Greg.
What did he say?
Potential problems is what. could see how some of this here, small home districts could come in handy. I'll tell you why. There's some areas, as I was reading around the state, they're taking and they're doing a lot of step down things for senior citizens that may be retired, living by themselves in a home that's way too big, and they're creating these small communities like this where they're dropping several of the tiny homes and making it a small community district or whatever you want to call it. And then whoever's selling that
Yeah.
is taking care of the grounds. They're plowing, they're doing the grass, they're doing the weed eating. So
Development.
yeah, development. You're starting to see some of that. And I mean, like the home that you lived in where my mother-in-law lived, you know, she lived in that huge home, and an area like this would work, you know, and take her out of that huge home and that she can't, you know, maybe maintain or take care of. So you're starting to see some of that. That's another reason why I wanted to print that.
I found it. It was 134505. No building in the rear of a main building on the same lot may be used for living purposes in a residence district. Did you look at that?
I don't know. I'll have to talk to him. That's a good point. Yeah. That's in the mobile home part. So what you're saying, utilize that.
That's in the general standards, Article 1345,
Yeah.
134505 for dwellings.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I know we talked about that last time.
I know he looked at all of that, but he didn't make comment on that, so. That's in general, that's not in the mobile home?
No, that's in the general standards, Article 1345.
I'll get back to you.
Basically establishing a residential community.
That's a good one, Jim.
What he's talking about.
It's like first of all, with it one bedroom, you sketch it up, that's what it makes it.
Well, that was basically shut it down. Some of that. Some of it.
There's a guy down Point, there was a car wash down there that had like 3 bays and then the main one. You know, these were your own, this one you drove through.
I'll get
The guy
clarification.
closed it down, the guy came in and bought it, he's already put in 4 apartments. And they're tiny home apartments. Perfect for, got parking there, front and back. You got, it's already.
Well, key in a lot of this is that definition, whatever you determine the definition
Yeah.
to be. I mean, can't really talk about.
So,
define it first.
1345.05, okay, which is under general standards. No building in the rear of a main building on the same lot may be used for living purposes in a residence district. See when that was written? 1968.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Well, that just solved our problem.
that, to me,
Just leave it alone.
I'll bring that up to
Well, I think that takes maybe care of the mother-in-law kind of thing, but if somebody's got a lot out there, they want to stick a tiny home onto it. Yeah, that's,
but it says you can't.
No building in the rear of a main building on the same lot.
that's what I mean, what if it's not the same lot though?
Yeah, it could, yeah, what you're saying is if they have 2 separate lots.
Yeah.
Does that say attached or unattached?
No building in the rear of a main building on the same lot may be used for living purposes in a residence district.
Yeah, it wouldn't work because there's a lot of 2 lots.
Yeah.
They have 2 lots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or if
But
somebody buys a house, you know,
it does shut down the one with 1 lot.
yeah, sure. It takes care of the mother-in-laws. Not to single out
What
mother-in-law.
is it against mother-in-laws, Jim? But we'll go off record for that one,
You
okay?
better change that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's what we talked about, right?
yeah,
Probably ought to go somewhere else.
yeah, I agree.
This one just says in-law, just take the mother out of it, you're good. Just
The
let
other
it
thing we need to look at.
Just say MILs.
There you go.
I hope nobody catches us up
I
there.
mean, if it's 100 feet in the back, you're not gonna do it. But if it's separate, and they can put a walkway between it, you can't do anything about it, that's one structure.
No, I can't. Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but, you know, it's not. There's a lot of factors in this.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. So do I have 2 volunteers that would sit down with me and help me with this thing?
Whoever wants to.
And I'll work with you. It doesn't have to be evening, it can be lunchtime, it could be morning time, it could be, doesn't matter. You're busy.
It depends on the court schedules, what I have available or not. So, I mean, I would be willing, but
Yeah,
depends on the court.
yeah. How late is court?
Court usually ends, he's usually pretty good about getting us out by 4:30.
Are you buying dinner?
Yeah, what goes along with this?
Yes.
You're not sold yet,
So
are
if
you?
I'm doing that-
You're not sold on this proposition yet, are you?
So if I'm doing that, I'd rather have a lunch meeting. If I'm buying, I'd rather do a lunch meeting than
Let's
dinner.
go take it to Wendy's.
4 for $4 at Wendy's.
Now it's 5.
Well, you guys, think about it, text me. I got, Jim said. he
I'll be
wants-
glad to do whatever.
Okay, so you got one, I just need one more, so
Somebody,
somebody text me.
I'll gladly set something.
Brandon, you in?
Whatever you all need.
Okay, you're in.
I've worked for a while.
So I'll have a little committee and the 3 of us will sit down and try to draft something and,
On tiny homes?
yeah, and present to you guys and then we can do some addition, subtraction and so on and so forth. Sound good?
Just tiny homes,
These guys don't want to work my hours.
I'd like to do the other one too,
citations?
yeah. But I think the citations would be easier.
Yeah.
Okay. I can probably put that together. Any other questions? It's nearing my 1 hour. Right? It's nearing my 1 hour.
Tip off.
If there's, if there are no other comments or suggestions, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Got a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Thanks, Brandon.